All right, it took a technical difficulty or two to sort out. But hello, my friends, how are you? Here in New York, get Teezio on a second. We just talked a few minutes ago. I'm living this nomadic life here, so everything's a little crazy, but I'm excited to talk to Teezio today. Let me just go ahead and grab him. I see him on there. Let's see. What's up, everybody? See the Discord people already saying what's up here. Let me, there we go. Let's get Teezio. How's everybody doing? Hey, what's up, man?
Hi, guy.
It was a little bit of a challenge to get everything set up here. I was telling you, we chatted like a half an hour ago. It's like, I'm living that nomadic life now. I'm like 4 days into it. It's already chaos. It's
oh my
God,
though. I can't even imagine. I'm glad you had a safe flight, though. You got there safe,
Yeah, man. Hey, it was great seeing you, having you and Baines over the other weekend. We didn't even talk about that, but it was really great having you guys my last few days in Malibu. Just got to hang and talk some shit and talk some shop. It was fantastic, man. I'm so glad you guys came by.
Definitely. No, we appreciate you having us. It was definitely a super vibe.
It's interesting. Obviously, in our line of work, we have like sort of several levels of conversation that we can have. We have the conversation that we can have with the public, which is sort of a version of what we're doing now. We have the conversation we can have with our friends. And then you guys, there's like a real tight-knit group of engineers. It's really, without obviously getting into certain aspects of it, it's really cool to see how there really is a community of the guys and girls who are recording some of these big artists. You guys are all cool. You guys are all supporting each other. It's a really beautiful. I didn't really realize the extent to which everybody kind of knows each other. I mean, I'm sure there's people that are or aren't involved in it, but like, it's dope. You guys really have a thing. Like, there really is a little crew of people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the internet and Instagram and everything has really allowed for people, engineers and stuff. Like, I'm assuming like back in the day when there wasn't stuff like that, like if I worked at Paramount Studios, for example, like I would know everyone at Paramount and I would know people at like Chalice and stuff like that because we're kind of all here. But then there's a ton of Miami engineers and New York engineers and all these people that if you don't really travel, which, I used to travel a lot more than I do now for work. But if you didn't travel that much, you wouldn't meet these people. I mean, like you might be on an email chain with them with the label over some project or something, but it's not like now it's gotten to the point where all of us kind of know each other, or if we don't know each other personally, we like follow each other on Instagram and we may reach out or something like that. But to be honest, the greatest thing about it is that when we do a feature, like we do, like not recently, but last year we did a feature for Tyga or the year before that. And when it's like, Tyga will call Chris and be like, yo, I want you to get on this song. So then Chris will be like, yo, Tyga wants me to get on this record. So what do? I call CQ, who's Tyga's engineer, and I'm like, yo, the record that CB needs to get on for Tyga, can you get that to me with the open verse and blah, blah, blah. So then he'll go get approval from Tyga to send it to me, get it sent to me. So it's just like, instead of us having to go the long way, we all know each other. Once Chris tells me that he wants to get on a song with someone, I no longer have to deal with him about it anymore. He just knows that the next time we're in the studio, I'll probably have that song ready to record. There's no thought process of, hey, did you get the song? Hey, do you have Tyga's engineer's number? This is his number. Everyone knows each other, so it's kind of made it easy. Same with Doug. Doug wants something with CB. Okay, cool. Let me hit Baines. Yep. Gunna, let me hit Flo. So it's just like, it's so easy now. And I love that about it. I love being friends with everyone because it gives us something to talk about. I don't really have anything to talk about with like normal people, like people that don't do music, because it's like there's not a lot to, like maybe smoking weed. Like that's about it.
That's about it. Well, that's great, man. There's a couple of things to go off on that. I mean, one of them is, of course, this is how I know you. And we become friends is because talking to John, Baines knows John a bit and used to go to John having his engineering events pre-pandemic at his place in downtown. And then Baines and I became friends, and he's like, you got to know this dude, Teezio. So what I really like about it, and this is something that I think, one of the reasons I like having these conversations with people like you and Baines and John and others is not so much to say like, here's how you make your snare drum sound good, but more to tell the young engineers and producers and songwriters that you will win with your community. You will win with, it's
sure.
not, I mean, there are aspects of this industry, of course, that are very cutthroat, especially when it gets into sort of like the manager and label hustle and competition there and radio spots and playlist spots and all that. But in terms of our end, which is the creative end, more and more it's about the creative community. And I think people misunderstand that sometimes as well, where they think that means they got to get into an existing community, like, oh, how do I meet Teezio and how do I get beats to him, or how do I, but the reality is you do it with your friends and the people around you, and then you guys all come up together and you meet other peers. That's the way you're really going to win. You're going to win by being pro community and pro positivity. Like, it used to be that things were much more gatekeepers, more people telling you couldn't do things, having to compete for certain spots. But now everybody can make records. And it turns out actually that the best thing to do is be hella cool with people and be friends with people and help people out and go out of your way. And the other thing, to your point, it's funny, I was talking to Baines a little bit DM, and I won't go and try to make sure I don't over say, like, tell tales out of school about what he was, but just the idea that really the reason that people like Baines, why someone like Thug and the whole YSL crew relies on Baines, why Chris and now many others on the mix end rely on you, why people have relied on me, is your ability to get things done. And so, like you were talking about, with if Chris is doing something with Tyga or something with Thug, it's your ability to go, cool, I'm going to take care of everything for this. I have the relationships. I'm cool with everybody. I'm going to get things done. I think, even though obviously, and we'll get into there's lots of questions about nuance, mix things, Chris's vocal, the Industry Baby album, there's lots of really great technical stuff you know how to do. The reason so many people are hiring you is because you're reliable and great to deal with, and you get things done. And I feel like that's a really underrated part of this job. I assume you feel the same way. We've talked about this, but like the reliability part is so huge.
Yeah. And to be honest, because when I have something I need to do or get done or files come in, it's all I can think about. Like, it's kind of a gift and a curse, because the curse is like, I can't sometimes just enjoy. It doesn't need to get done now. It can get done later. But because I have it, the files came in the text, like, I need to get that done immediately. To be honest, now that I think of it, I've never had someone be like, yo, you told us the mix was going to come on Monday and it's Wednesday and you haven't sent them. I've never dealt with that. I'll be like, someone will give you a mix Monday. I'll tell them, hey, I can start it possibly tomorrow or Wednesday. I'll have it to you for sure by Thursday. If I get a chance that Monday night, and I open and I'm just like, something happened and I'm free, I'll knock it out then and deliver Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, I don't let the open gaps just be unfilled, especially when it's like, there's nothing else to do anyways. You know what I mean? It's like, might as well knock it out. Then you never know, something else might pop up. And that happens all the time, where I told this guy that I would deliver Thursday, but I knocked it out early. And Wednesday I got another mix that I had to deliver Thursday. And that kind of worked out because I took care of the first mix when I initially,
right.
You know what I mean? So that type of stuff happens all the time. And I'm seeing it. Wow, if I was just like, oh, I said I was going to mix it Tuesday, I'll just do it then, I'll chill tonight, stuff will start to pile up. So in my head, I just need to get it done and get it out of the way.
Well, this industry, it's very interesting you say that. This industry is a whole lot of last minute, oh my God, I need this tomorrow. So if you're in the position, if you're trying to be a music professional and you're like, okay, cool, I have till Thursday to do this and it's Monday, I'm just going to chill out, like, it just never works out well. And it sounds like you have basically what I think everybody wishes they had in a lot of ways, which is the opposite of procrastination. If you have a task in front of you,
everything else though.
What do you mean everything else? Like everything else in life?
Like, okay, for example, I just got the Tesla, so I got rid of the other car, right? I got a thing from the DMV saying that I had to redo my thing for the other car. And so I don't have the car anymore. So my guy's like, oh, just write on the back that you don't own the car anymore. That shit came like a week and a half ago, and I still haven't sent it. And I'm like, if I don't send it, like that type of stuff, I'll procrastinate all day. It's the stuff that, okay, I think what happened was coming up, especially under Juicy J, there was a lot of aggressive, just, I don't even know to say, it's not like real PTSD, but in a way where it's like, I got really a lot of anxiety when I know the pressure was on, because I would get cussed out all the time. Juicy would throw shit at me. Like, it was like that. So because of that, I think I became, it made this like anxiousness come when I have something. I'm like, I have to get it done.
Yeah.
I think coming from that, from being, I don't want to say the word emotionally abused, but like just so like,
let's say chaotic.
It's so chaotic that it becomes a thing. Like now it's like like as soon as files come in, it's like anxiety. Something else comes in, I don't really care. I'll procrastinate and put it off. And my reason for putting it off is, well, I have to do this, right? Like, why haven't you done the DMV? I've been fucking mixing every day, you know? So it's not like I'm just sitting on the couch like, I don't want to do it right now. Like, I fill it with other times and then I don't do other shit. So
it may be that the answer is, if you want to be great at something, you just start doing it as soon and as much as possible all the time. And wherever that comes from.
In the beginning, it has to be something that you like literally live in.
Yeah.
I don't even know how else to explain it, because at the time that I'm doing it, I'm living in it because I need to be really good at it. It's all I knew and all I could do every day. And, you know what I'm saying? All day, wake up, obviously need to make money. So it's just like engineering sessions. You know what I'm saying? I'll do a session for free. Let me get in the room.
Yeah.
Like, you have to consume yourself with it. And then there becomes a point where you kind of, you stop doing that. Like for me, it was with Chris. Like once I got with Chris and things started to like really go good for me, I started to allow time for other things, because I couldn't continue to live completely consumed for too long, because you start to go crazy. I mean, you're in that room, you're in that shitty little studio in your bedroom, wherever it is, locked in there every day with your homies. Y'all are scrounging change together to get food, to buy weed, whatever it is. Like, there has to come a point.
The important things,
the weed and the food.
The staples.
You need to be able to like separate those things, and that's what I've been able to do, is like have a life along with it, because if not, I don't feel inspired. Like, if I had to continue doing that, the only reason why I would, when you're coming up and you're consuming yourself in that, the only reason why you're doing that is because you know that you need to also make money to do it, right? So like, that was the big thing. Now it's like, I just want to keep doing good things and working on big music. The money's just going to come. I'm no longer worried about, you know what I'm saying? So like, it's kind of hard, because when you look back at it, you weren't doing anything with a plan back then. Like, it was just like you wake up and hopefully there was a crazy opportunity that day. Someone called you about a session that the engineer didn't show up. Like, it was just that you were waiting on this piece to fall in your lap. You know what I mean? And eventually it happens. You do it enough, it'll happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to like give people advice to say you need to be a total crazy person and completely committed for like 5 years of your life, or whatever the number is, but like years, because it's not something that is in the long run healthy, but it does seem to be something that all of us who do this professionally, whether it's writers and producers, whether it's engineers, whatever it is, I think all of us have had a significant amount of time in our lives where it was just all encompassing. And it doesn't necessarily even mean, like you said, it doesn't even mean you're working on the highest level records. You're just working nonstop. It's about getting the mindset the right way. Yeah,
it's and you change so much along the path, you know, like there's stuff that I would do back then that I would never do today. Like, you know what I mean? It's just, I had to do those things, and you got to do, and like, it's funny you say that, because when you tell, like, people ask you like, oh, I want to be in music, and they're maybe, 20 years old, and you're like, well, it's going to be at least 6 to 7 years of you doing bullshit.
Yeah.
You might catch something early, and that can happen, but don't count on it. You know what I mean? Because it's very rare that you catch one 2 years in and you're just booming. You know what I mean? It probably happens more on the production side, I would say. Like, a producer can get the beat, but as an engineer, it's very locked in. Like, if you can't keep up with the artist, which takes years to master, being able to have the confidence in the room to be able to do that. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, absolutely, man. And the truth is, like, I remember I think I was 19 when I had a band that I produced and was sort of signed to Capitol Records. And I had another band get signed. They're like high school rock bands that I produced hip hop when I was growing up, and I was in rock bands as well. And the rock bands started getting attention. And all of a sudden it was like, there's a possibility that if things had fallen in a certain way, I could have had a huge hit when I was 19 or 20. And I don't know if that actually would have been good for me. because I really didn't know how to be a professional yet.
100%. That could have actually, getting in the room too soon, which is sort of what you're saying there, is like being thrown in. Like I would have never wanted to be thrown in with Chris 3 years into my career.
Yeah.
Because I would have never worked with Chris again.
Yeah.
Because I would have been horrible. He would have been cussing me the fuck out, and I would have deaded myself from ever working with this man again in the future. You know what I'm saying? And that can happen. Like if you're just thrown into the room too early, that's why people are so sometimes in a rush to do this. And it's not a rush. It's not a race. It's a marathon, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that great phrase, which was, somebody invented before, this baseball coach of mine when I was 15, but I've said it before on these streams, which is luck is the point at which preparation and opportunity meet. And it takes a long time to be prepared to take the big opportunities that come to you. Because it turns out if you're making music for years and you're working really hard and you're focused on it and you're making records with a lot of different people, you're going to get all the opportunities, and most of them you're not going to be ready for. And that's okay, because what it means is that it weeds out the people who are just kind of casually into it. I get the same question all the time. How do I get into music? And I say, do you have a laptop? And they go, yeah. And I go, start making music tonight and then just do it for a couple of decades. Like, that's
exactly.
I mean, it's obviously way more complicated than that, but it's also that simple, which is you have the ability to do it. So just start doing it and figure out how to love it. Figure out the parts of if you can love the process, if you can wake up in the morning and feel crazy and you need to get a mix done and you like feed off that, that's how you become successful at this shit.
For sure. And fucking another thing too is when you're coming up and you're younger, it's a lot easier to sacrifice those years for what you have coming. Once you reach, 35, 40 years old, it's hard to now say, okay, I want to do music, but I have to, and I have a job, may have a family, but to do this, you got to be on here. I mean, I was on Pro Tools I've been on Pro Tools for the past 13 years, it's like solid.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
I know the feeling,
so, to be able to do this at the capacity and really get on, you'd have to not have a job. This would have to be your job. And when you're coming up, you don't really, my mom paid my phone bill, like, I had just a car. So I just had to come up with like $550 a month. That's all I had to come up with, which is not a lot. You know what I'm saying? And I could come up with that coming up. And I just sleep wherever. My mom's house, I'd go if I didn't have any homies that I could sleep there. I'd sleep at the studio. When I was in New York, I slept at the studio. It's like, those are the only years for me that I would have given for that, because I didn't really care. I didn't really have any sort of responsibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And so somebody, I talked with John a couple of weeks ago. We did a whole episode about assistance, which maybe we could chat a little bit about that too. Somebody was asking in the Discord after the assistance episode. They said, "Do you guys look at age when you're hiring assistants?" And I said, I don't necessarily look at age, but what age means is, like you said, if you're 20 and you don't know what you're doing with your life and you're just obsessed with music and you don't really have other responsibilities, oftentimes that's a better person to have working, because you know that you can go to the edge with it. Just like when I was 20, when you were 20, the amount of hours you put in. And so if somebody's 30 or 35 or 40 or whatever, it's certainly rarer for those people to be able to commit the kind of time that you need to do what we're talking about. And by the way, it's a beautiful thing for someone who's 35 or 40 or even 20 to just make records however they want, to just make it casually, make it in your own time. That's a beautiful thing. And I would rather people do that than like sacrifice the feeding their children, or like, it's like if you have a family or do these other things, there's all kinds of other routes to make music. But to do the sort of thing that we're doing really does take a level of sacrifice and insanity, I think.
Totally. So I wouldn't have been able to do it with having kids and stuff like that, because there would be no food on the table some nights. Yeah. That's just what it would be for me, And to be honest, I wouldn't not hire someone because of age. I would honestly just see them as someone who has more wisdom than me, maybe. Like, but and you know what I mean? Like, and it's going to be more professional. Yeah. Because a lot of these kids, it's hard to hire these kids sometimes because they're not professional. You know what I mean? Like, and Instagram and social media's kind of fuck people up, because I've tend to see like people that reach out to me to like want to assist me or intern for me. I look at their Instagram and it's like smoking weed, taking pictures everywhere, always Instagramming absolutely every moment of their life. It's like, I can't have that around me. Like, I don't even post that. The stuff I post about is like if it's a credit or this is coming out or whatever, but I can't have someone having a video camera or anything around anything that I'm doing just because
that's very
it's going to put my shit in jeopardy, you know? Even just taking a picture inside of the room, there's Post-its with fucking song names on them and artists and stuff like that. Like that stuff has to remain very undercover, you know what I mean? So like,
I saw that.
I look for someone who's very professional, who's not like a socialite type of person to be my assistant, because I can't have any of that. I'm not even like, I don't go around like, hey, we're in the studio today, you know. I don't do that shit. Like you'll never see that type of stuff on my Instagram.
Leave that to the artists and
leave it to the artist. If they want to leak the song and film with the song, that's them. They're the artists. Or the producer. Let the producer fight with the artist. If the artist has a problem with it, let them do it. But sometimes people get too comfortable. They see this person doing it. They see that person doing it. Oh, it's cool. You know?
Well, and that's a really interesting contrast to what you're saying before about, again, the process of it. It's like the reasons that people want to be involved in music are often the superficial because they're fans. And that's really beautiful. And I'm a fan as well. Being in the studio and working is a very focused, insane loner existence, which, by the way, I love, and I know you love.
I'm more an introvert anyways. I like to be at home.
but it's not for everybody. And so the level of commitment on the assistance conversation, finding people who to work for you is very much about finding someone who just wants to get in there and fucking stare at a computer screen and work harder, work harder than you can possibly imagine. I mean, that's really the criteria more than anything else. Definitely.
Yeah. Especially at this level where like stuff has to be done right the first time as a starter, you know?
The training assistance is a whole nother.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. Like, to be honest, I've been thinking about it because it's getting so heavy with mixing, but it's a lot.
You don't have a full-time person?
No, I don't. I don't have a full-time person. I'm just so like, I'm a micromanager. So even if I did have someone, I'd probably be sitting behind them, watching them. Just because I've been realizing, because I've had a couple of people try stuff, and what makes it difficult is there's obviously the general stuff. You know, delete these things, import the template, right? Normal stuff. But then there's these decisions that are made, and they're very volatile decisions. It could be like, if this, then that, but if that, then this, but if that and this, then this. It's very like that. Like if I have a bus and it's got this and it's got these vocals going to it, it's got to be like this. But if that bus doesn't have this, then I don't care for it. And all those little tiny decisions are things that sometimes I make in the moment. I'll be like, what's on here? Oh shit, I don't know if I want that. Okay, let me take that off. Those are decisions that I didn't even know I was going to make.
Right.
And I'm expecting someone who doesn't know me yet and doesn't know my workflow to also make those decisions just like me. It's so like, it fucking kill. That's one thing that kills me, because I was really thinking about it. Like, I'm sitting here setting up sessions, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know what I need to do with it. Maybe I'll keep this, but I won't. Like, that right there is like, how is someone else going to do that?
Yeah. Well, by the way, you're about to get a lot of DMs being like, I'll be your assistant in the comments here. But, look, I mean, I talked about it with John, talked about it with other folks. It's like training that person definitely takes some time. And that's why I think what I've heard from people generally is like the ideal arc for having an assistant is 2 to 3 years, because the first 6 months or a year is like getting them to actually work efficiently for you, so you're not just micromanaging everything. And that's a tough transition, but I'm confident you will make it, because and it's maybe a nice transition to some of the questions. You've really, in the last month, congratulations, you've had lots of big records come out with the Kid Leroy stuff, with the Lil Nas X stuff. I think when we first talked, you had just started kind of, I mean, you've probably been doing it for a while, but things had just started coming out in more of the pop world. I mean, it's hard to say what exactly Lil Nas X is. I guess he's kind of a pop artist. It's kind of hip hop.
I would consider him a pop artist on in some level. I mean, some of the music obviously has the hip hop stuff, but as far as how he charts and how well he does, he's up there with he's up there neck and neck with BTS.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. And I would consider that pop.
Yeah, I guess pop short for popular
music, right?
Popular music, yeah.
Right, and same with the Kid Leroy stuff. I mean, like, yeah, it's very hip hop oriented, but it's up there with the pop albums. Like, it's going crazy. So the word pop has kind of changed so much. Like, now it just means what's the most popular shit. Like, But sometimes they'd be like, oh, can I get more of a pop beat that's more of like a dance or like a happy non-hip hop style beat. So it's kind of weird. But as far as charting, like I just call it pop music. Like that's what it is.
So how did those things come about, either in the general sense or in the specific sense? There were a few questions about Industry Baby, a few questions about Kid Leroy. How did you get connected into those? Is that through the producers? Is it through the label?
Yeah, actually on the Kid Leroy one, it was to the producer Khaled, who's amazing producer, who was like, yo, I've heard about you, I want to try it. So I mixed a record and they were like, yo, I love this shit. I ended up mixing 3 on the main album and then another like 4 more. So I did a good part of the album for the Kid Leroy stuff. And from there, because Kid Leroy signed to Columbia and I've now developed the relationships over there, I was able to get the Industry Baby. So what a lot of labels do is they have multiple mixers mix shit. You know what I mean? So I was just neck and neck with other mixers, and I got 2 with Nas X, including Industry Baby.
Yeah.
But then I'm also fucking the Dixie D'Amelio stuff is another one that I really was happy about because I really believe in her as an artist. Like she's such a, like I would say, icon on the internet, to say her and her sister. And that's a whole new thing that I really want to get into because there's a lot of talented TikTokers, like the Bella Porch Girls, Fire, Dixie's crazy. Because I feel like those people have these massive platforms.
Yeah.
So if they have the records, which a lot of these artists, like you got to think about it, like Dixie and Bella and them, they're in with like the top producers.
Yeah.
You know, because the platform is so big that all they need is the talent, which they have, and then the right records. You know what I mean? And they're bringing the right records, and it's just going crazy. It's a whole new part of the industry I want to tap into because I feel like TikTok's just got the whole world like in a headlock. The whole music industry.
I mean, it's given the way we've all been locked into our houses and on our phones in the last 18 months, TikTok has really just taken over. Yeah. How do you feel, and again, we've talked about it a little before, but doing more pop stuff versus hip hop stuff versus R&B. I mean, Chris is obviously an artist who kind of does everything. So it's not like you've been doing just like trap beats or something like that. You're doing dance stuff. You're doing recording the vocals. How's it feel moving more toward like major label pop stuff?
I personally,
as a mixer,
because the deadlines are a little less crazy. Like they're asking you things with realistic expectations. Versus a lot of the hip hop stuff is like, yo, we trying to, they wait till the last minute. Like, oh, we dropping this next week. Can you mix it tonight? And they've had the files and everything for a week. They just didn't think, oh, we should get this mixed because, we have 10 days to upload to the streaming services, blah, blah, all this stuff. Versus with pop, it's very calculated. By the time I get the record, that record has already gone through all the label approvals. Everything's done. The files are ready. The producers added stuff and arranged the production to the song. He's probably put the beat inside of the Pro Tools session with the vocals to add stuff. Everything is there. I get the session. It's one link. Everything is set up, ready to go. The reference sounds just like what he has in Pro Tools because he's imported the stems and put it, leveled it and got it all right. So it's definitely a different level, but it makes it more challenging in the fact that a lot of times in the hip hop stuff, like the demos you get are like, they're cool, but you could easily beat them.
Yeah,
versus
kind of a
with
mess.
The pop shit, these guys are like mixing the record before you mix it. So by the time
I'm one of those guys who's both mixed other people's mostly mixed stuff, and I've sent my basically my full mix over to like Serban or somebody, and he does the thing that he does, and tweaks it, makes it it's an interesting process.
A lot of times the difference isn't very major because you've already gotten the record pretty much where it needs to be. It just needs that last polish and like. So with those, I find it more challenging because I have the reference mix, which is the producer's mix. And I'm really like, okay, this shit is loud. Okay, let me tie my belt right quick because they got their shit loud, clear, the vocals compressed, everything's nice, the effects. They've sent me all the reverbs printed that they want. So a lot of times with these records, like with Industry Baby, with the Dixie stuff, I get the effects are printed in. Like not printed into the actual lead, but I have them printed below. So sometimes I'm not even going to my reverbs too much. Like I might throw a little verb here just to accent it, but I'm using their effects because they've gone through the time to literally make all these effects, make the delay throws, make all the shit. All, of course, EQ, compress. I'll take out some of the low end on a delay to just make it cut through a little more, little things, but I leave what they do just because they've gone through and they've said, this is how the record needs to sound. All you need to do is take it from 99 to 101.
Yeah,
that's it.
Absolutely, man. Well, I'm going to try to tie in a few questions we got here because I saw a lot of people asked a lot of very technical questions, which we can get to bits of them. But somebody asked about reverbs, which I don't think you and I have talked about. What are your go-to reverbs, delays, time-based effects? What do you like? What are your go-tos?
So as far as like reverbs, I love the Seventh Heaven stuff. It's like a fake Bricasti. And
that
then
sounds
the Valhalla,
gorgeous. I love that one.
Yeah, the Valhalla sounds amazing. I'll blend stuff too. Like I'll put a little Seventh Heaven. I'll put a little Valhalla. I'll mix all the reverbs on the track. You know, like as I'm putting this, I'll add a little bit of this. Then I'll put a little bit of this, and it kind of just starts to open it up a little more. But I don't have just one reverb that goes on one track, and then that's the reverb for the track. It'll just be a blend.
Yeah.
The different reverbs. I use the Capital as well.
I haven't used that one. That's like the
Capital's from UAD.
The UAD making like the Capitol chambers at Capitol Records. Is that vibe? Yeah.
Yep. Obviously, D-Verb. Shit, Mike Miller's in the house. Fucking D-Verb for sure. And yeah, for delays, you know what I like to do with delays is like I don't rely on a delay plugin to throw it on there and obviously get the timing and then do all like the spatialness and effect. I don't just wait on one plugin. So I'll just throw the H delay on there, which is very easy to use. Take the analog off, create where I want the low and high pass. And then after that, I'll start to add plugins, Futzbox, this, flanger, reverbs, like an actual reverb just on there, maybe the sauce from DJ Swivel, throw it on there, see what it sounds like. But I don't rely, the delay plugin that I use is just to create the repetition.
I got you. Yeah, a lot of delay plugins have built-in effects of various kinds, but you're saying oftentimes, and they're usually pretty limited too. So you'll go and actually
limited. And sometimes you have to really learn it, and it may be missing one thing, and you're like, okay, well, I'll do everything here, but then I still have to use the Pro Q to get this thing out, whatever it might be.
Right.
So for me, each plugin is just doing its job. The H, like that's most of the time, especially when I'm doing throws, like just throw the HDL on there, get the initial delay going, get the ping. If it's a ping pong, put it in ping pong, flip the phase on both sides, flip the phase on one side, whatever you want to do. After that though, I start building on it. A verb, this, you know what I'm saying? Compression, obviously, maybe some soothe, maybe the delay. I've put Futzbox on there, and it's taken the low end out, and it's accentuated the mid range. So now let me throw soothe on there to kind of just soothe it out, so it doesn't sound like it's poking through. You know what I mean?
I like
there's
that
a lot
idea.
of stuff.
I think it's important, and it's good for me to hear too that. Like so many things, just go the extra few steps. Like throw you can throw I love the Valhalla delay. I love Echo Boy. They have cool high pass and low pass things on them. But if you really want to go make a great sound, put those things on and then start manipulating the sound. Start EQing the delay, start putting fuzz on. I think that's a really important thing for people to hear, that like one delay plugin versus another is like, yeah, okay, they do slightly different things, but go in and tweak them and mess with them and make them your own.
Definitely. No, for sure. I don't like just having a plain thing on there because it's so like, I want to make, because I don't just throw delays everywhere. Obviously, when I'm recording, it's a thing. You just have the eighth delay, you have a quarter delay, everything's just kind of going. It's a vibe, the verb. But when it comes to mixing, I don't just have delay, quarter delay just happening. Unless it comes like that from the demo where it's like, there's so much space and this delay is part of the momentum of the record.
Part of the production, part of the feel, yeah.
Right, then I won't do that.
No, that's great. And by the way, for people who haven't watched these before, we'll have show notes up in a day or so on LiveWithMattRad.com, which will have notes on all the stuff we're talking about and links and the name of plugins and stuff. So I know people will want to watch after and take notes on some of this stuff, but we'll have that up there. Bradley, who's Slow Hand Sound here on Instagram, is great at taking notes. Actually saw him on here. I didn't know if he was going to be on today, but yeah, we'll get into that. Let's see. There were, you and I can just kind of talk forever, which is always a great thing. I want to see if I can address some some questions. We talked a little. Do you have anything from mixing industry, baby, that you remember in particular? There are a few questions. Oh,
there's a lot of fucking horns.
We'll have.
Here, there's a lot of here. Let me pull. I'm gonna pull up the session.
You'll say the show notes will be up within an hour or two, says Bradley. So if people are watching this, you want to go to LiveWithMattRad.com and you can see the notes for all the things we're talking about.
So I'm gonna pull up the session for industry, baby, right now.
Let's do it.
This shit had literally so many fucking horns. Okay, look, this is what I get. They're like, yo, we want you to mix this record for Lil Nas. I'm like, cool. I get the link. This shit is 15 gigabytes. I'm like, did they send me the entire album? I was like, am I mixing the whole album? Bro, I get this shit. It's one session. It's 15 gigabytes. Zipped 15 gigabytes. Baines will tell you. I called Baines. I was like, yo, you're not going to believe this.
Because they were just like individual horns, right?
Yes, I mean, it was stereo track horns, but they were all individualized. So honestly, it took up... Here, I'm going to flip the camera really quick. But this is the whole... That's just the end horns right there. I consolidated them.
That's amazing, man.
It's just so many tracks.
Holy shit.
This is the whole fucking set. Look at this. It's just fucking never stops. But so that to be honest was a big task in itself because I wanted to keep their blends on everything because they sent me everything blended. But at the same time, I didn't want to go through. If I go through too much and just solo out each one and level it, it's gonna fuck up the blend too much. So I started to say, okay, these horns are kind of in the same world. Let me take those and treat them as a whole, right? It'll be like 4 or 5 tracks of horns that are kind of. A lot of the horns didn't sound too different from each other. They were just kind of like one a little bit toned like this, one a little bit toned like that. So I started to kind of group them together a little bit, just to like keep the blend overall, but also not go too deep into it because you can get lost when you're going in, you know, and you're trying to EQ and compress individually 70 tracks of horn that all kind of similarly sound similar. You know what I mean?
Hopefully they have it balanced because I know our buddy Nick Lee who did the horns on that, I think. But just sitting there doing one at a time, I mean, that's like, it's funny. I used to do string sessions like that where I have a couple of string players and we do, 48 tracks of an individual violin. We do 4 of one part and then 4 of another voice, and then we do a viola and 4 of what, and getting them all together really is the blend. It's interesting. So did you take those and basically bust them? Were there effects on them already? What was the...
No, they printed out of Logic. So everything came printed. I had to get them to send me certain things dry as far as vocals. Yeah. But mostly everything was printed as far as like the beat and the horns, all of their stuff, which I really like too, because Day Trip and them are fucking geniuses. Like, they'll really like get in there and make the shit easy for you. They're gonna send you a lot of tracks, but they're gonna make the shit easy for you. Like, they're gonna get the shit how they want it to sound, and all you gotta do is just make it fit in the mix. Make it not so abrasive. Same volume, they have it in the reference. That's another thing, is referencing back and forth is really important for me because I need to know where they have it in their mind.
Yeah.
Where they have everything.
Those guys really know what they're doing and know what they want, from what I can tell. I don't know them personally, but that's what I've heard.
They may have something loud and I may be like, oh, that's too loud, but maybe there's a reason, especially with them, knowing them, that's a moment in the record. So I have to respect that. So, and that kind of goes, when you're working with different people, some people, okay, I need to help this person because like they're coming to me for a certain reason. Like I've gotten vocals that are off time, for example, and I'll go through and time those vocals in and be like, see how it sits better. Oh yeah, man, thanks for doing that. Versus with these type of clients, it's like I'm here to just assist them to get this to where it needs to be. I'm not here to try to be like, let's do these drops, let's do that. With them and with this record, it was like I needed to make sure it sounded as much like the demo as possible, but polished and better and bigger.
Well, it's a great sounding record, obviously doing very well, and people are fans of it. So well done and congrats on that. There's something that you and I and Baines talked about when you guys were over at the house, which I thought was an interesting topic. I don't know how super useful it is. Maybe it's just interesting to me. But this idea of vocal timing. I actually just put up a clip of John and I talking about vocal feel.
We spoke about that.
But we talked about this and how the energy of records and like gritting things and being on beat is good for some stuff, but also the wrong move for other things. And there's a lot of energy of rap music especially, but also now whatever we're calling melodic rap, pop, post, whatever it is, that where guys are ahead of the beat. And sometimes it's jarring. And in addition to being jarring, though, sometimes it's very exciting. I mean, we talked about like Rich the Kid is this way, Yachty is this way. But I even look at guys like Jack White from the White Stripes in the 2000s, like these guys that are deliberately, and whether it's deliberately or whether it's just their feel, I mean, being off time, but if they're ahead in the same way the whole time, there's something exciting about that. I mean, I feel like we talked about it for like a half an hour.
No, because there's a certain,
but I think it's a really important
there's
topic.
A threshold. There's like a threshold. Like there's a place where it sounds like, okay, there's a gray area where it's all correct. It doesn't matter if it's here, it's correct within this gray area. But then when it gets outside of that gray area, being too off beat or too on beat, all that is a feeling thing. You know what I mean? Like with NBA Youngboy and shit, like they rap more ahead of the beat because it creates this what's it called? It creates this urgency, you know, like this exciting urgency.
Absolutely,
they're all popular. They're all, you know what I'm saying? But with some stuff, and you, when you hear that, you're not bothered by it, even though it may be ahead or whatever. You're not bothered by it, like, oh, that shit sounds off. You're like, oh shit, he's writing it in a certain way. But once they get off of it, and some people do it too much, like Rich the Kid does it too much sometimes, and you know what I'm saying. So like, that's the thing, is finding, and some artists do it perfectly where they're off, but they're doing it in the perfect way where it doesn't sound off. They're always in the gray area, essentially.
Well, I think I talked to you. I've had maybe, I think, 2 different songs with Rich the Kid features on them, and one of them, the way he was ahead of the beat was perfect for everything except this one moment where there was a downbeat where his line landed on it, and it was just too far ahead. So I just like nudged that one moment, but the rest of it sounded right. So there's, like you said, there's a gray area to it, but it's a really interesting thing too, because a lot of it seems to have come out of, although tempos and beats are changing quite a bit, but it seemed to come out of this like 140, even like 130, 135 slow trap thing where the beats get so syrupy and so laid back that if it's not done right, they just sound kind of boring. But if you have people ahead of the beat, then all of a sudden it contrasts it in a really interesting way. And there's something about that adds to the excitement.
Definitely. But that, what you're talking about, that's still within the gray area.
Yeah.
It's definitely, because it's still, now you've picked it up. There's definitely ways that people ride the beat. It could be a slow beat, but if the way the lyrical and the melodies and the cadences are coming over it, it can actually make the record seem faster and more exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And knowing when to do that is part of the artist's job, to say, hey, this track is slow, but if I come on it like this, then I can create the excitement and actually make it. There's plenty of records that are big that are slow. You know what I'm saying? It's just about how the artist was on it that made it happen. You know
Absolutely.
That happens.
Well, let me see. You maybe got another 15 minutes or so. Let me see if I can get in. I got through a couple of questions as we were talking there. You down to talk about some specific vocal mixing things? There's a lot of questions. One of the questions which I really like, which you and I were just talking about when we FaceTimed a while back. What's the process when doing a clean edit? How do you do cleans? Maybe you can just cover that quickly.
So, okay, this kind of goes back into this kind of goes back into like back in the day. So like back in the day, I would make clean edits so fucking exciting. Like I would like chop back from the line before, like all
little reverses and shit.
I would go crazy because I wanted it to be, no joke. People used to be like, yo, the clean is more fun than the dirty because it was so, and this is like 2010, 2011. But now,
can you tell us one of those records? Like, can we go listen to one of your edits from that?
Okay, if you can find, there's an artist named Spice. His name is do you know who I'm talking about? He used to work with Too Short up in the Bay.
Spice One, yeah.
Spice One. Okay, so
Spice
I work with
Bay
Spice
Area
One.
legend.
If you can find any clean versions from,
by the way, my respect for you just went up immensely that you worked with Spice One a bunch. As a legend, he's on the I Got Five on a remix.
It's a whole nother conversation, but I damn near lived in the same house as this guy, and literally, I thought he was the greatest rapper in the fucking world. Like, fast all day. He used to tell me that Too Short would take him in his car, pick him up, and go to like rap battles and be like, all right, I'm gonna bring my boy, and he brings a Spice, and Spice would just tear everyone apart like a fucking dog, and then they'd get back in the car and roll out. And like he was like underneath Too Short and shit. Like I don't even. Yeah. It's so long ago, but this is crazy that you would even. Yeah. So if you can find clean versions of that, of 2010 to 2012, maybe in that vicinity of songs that came out, clean, you'll hear it. Sometimes we didn't have. Sometimes I'd make, like, there were songs that he already had recorded, and I would make the clean version using the 2-track bounce.
Yeah, I've done that too. You do like reverse
just create like
moment.
A snare snap or like a snare double or something, and whatever. So now my cleans are a lot different. I just go in there and I mute the word. There are times where I put a delay, but it needs to have that timing. Like, it needs to be enough space to create a delay, or else it's kind of just, you create this wash. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, especially when you take out like done shit, and I want to like, there's not really a delay you can put like shit like, so you just take it out, and I feel like it helps sometimes because it helps know what's really there. Like, you know when they're saying fuck or when they're saying shit because of the way that the word is cut. So it kind of just makes it like easier to know what word it is. But I wouldn't call it as much lazy since everyone does it like that. You just cut the word. You know, and you know what? Another thing too about cutting the word.
I can hate that shit. Yeah,
labels get like radio, especially nowadays with how everyone's so uptight about shit. The labels don't even want, like, when they say shit. I used to just cut it out so it just said shh.
Right.
They don't want the shh anymore. Like, they're telling me to cut the shh off for certain stuff, just because. So they want it super clean. You know, just because I don't think they want to run into any issues with radio and different streaming or whatever it may be.
You know, I don't know if you've gone this pop on shit, but I've done a few Radio Disney clean versions, and they will make you take out, like, there was a song I did years ago with my buddy Chris, a song called Remember When, which the opening line was, I'm sitting with an empty glass and a broken heart, and they made us take out empty glass. Because, you know, you can't drink on Radio Disney, so they go pretty crazy with that stuff too.
No, I've definitely had the ones even where they make us recut it.
Yeah,
I've actually even gotten sessions where they have a clean lead, and they've changed certain lines to be different completely.
I've done that a lot. I actually like that, honestly.
I prefer that. Kind of annoying because you have to.
It's all annoying.
It's all annoying. Yeah.
It's all super annoying. Well,
you know what's funny in the Spanish world? I've mixed a lot of Spanish records. I never get asked for clean versions ever. I've never done a Spanish clean version. I speak Spanish, so I could definitely do a clean version if I needed to, but I've never been asked to do one. I think in the culture, it's not like here where I don't know what it is about it. I've just never made
It's because people at the FCC don't speak Spanish.
Oh shit! You're right.
No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think.
No, you're right.
Because I remember back when I was growing up, there was a Sublime song that had English and Spanish in it. And I believe they censored some of the English words, but I had friends who spoke Spanish, and they were like, yo, he's just cussing in Spanish on the radio.
I could definitely see that.
Oh my God, that's kind of dope.
They'll ask me for everything else. They want the instrumental, the acapella, the TV track, and the main, but not the clean.
You know, Baines is wilding in the chat. What's up, Baines?
Yo,
how are you?
Baines, what the hell is going on?
Baines is loving it. We should bring him on. Okay, so we got like 10 minutes left, and maybe we can just go through some. I know people always ask a million, like, how do you get harshness out of a vocal type question? So let's just jump into some of those real quick while we got a few minutes left. I think that was actually literally one of the questions. What do you like for pulling out harshness? Are you like a soothe guy? Do you use multi-band compression? Are you saturation? What do you like to get rid of?
It's a combination of things. It's first pro cue, figuring out what's there, listening, seeing the graph, and then starting to notch. Scalpel notches. Just
so if people don't know, Pro Q3 is my favorite EQ plugin.
It's my knife. It's like my doctor's little.
It's the best, and what you can do is you can actually, if you put the cursor in a certain place, it'll show you the spectrum of vocals. So if you have a harsh sibilant somewhere, it'll actually show you where that is.
Exactly. So the main thing is this for me. It's very difficult, and this goes for a lot of things. It's very difficult to use one thing to control all these different things that you want to get out. For example, you say harshness. there's multiple variables of harshness, and throwing just a soothe on there and not doing these cuts and that doesn't help the soothe work more efficiently, right? Because the soothe is now having to take on everything. And that goes for any plugin, a multiband. That multiband is having to take on the whole load of the work. So for me, I like to make it easier for the next plugin to work, if that makes sense. So Pro Q, obviously low cuts, start notching all of the stuff that's abrasive. Once it's there, it's a little abrasive, but it's more controlled. So then, boom. Next thing, soothe. Now soothe can work a little less hard and work a little more efficiently because I've taken out kind of the big stuff and now it's dealing with the smaller stuff. And so it's not pulling as hard, right? It's not, like, because that'll happen. Like if you try to put all the work on one thing, it'll just start pulling because you're trying to get it all done. So, so you'll see, like, if I didn't do those notches, I'd actually have to work the soothe harder, which would cause it to pull more.
Right.
So I'm trying to get as much done without having that pulling sensation, which I do with the EQ. Because the EQ, when you notch it down, it doesn't pull. But when you do that same thing with the multiband, it does. You know what I mean?
Well, this is why we talk a lot. Yeah, this is why we talk a lot about other tools besides compressors to even out dynamics. And it's not that compressors are bad, but if you only use compressors, you start to feel that pulling. So it's like clip gaining and automating things and all of that so that you can, and saturators, so that you can even out the dynamics without just slamming shit on.
So that when you do reach the multiband, you're not using it in a way where it's just fucking going to work. You're just more or less wiping off the last remaining dust and just, it's there now. It's beautiful. You know what I mean? It makes like logical sense to me that you wouldn't want to make one thing overwork when you could make multiple things work a little bit to get a better thing. You know what I mean? Like it just makes like logical sense that would be the case.
Absolutely. Can you talk a little bit about, I think we talked about the Chris Brown vocal chain. There were a lot of Chris Brown questions. Most of the questions were, when are we getting a new Chris Brown song? So you can not answer that.
I can't answer that right now, man. I wish I really could, man, but then Chris will call me and cuss me out.
Yeah. Well, this is why, well, again, for people that are learning, this is why you're good at your job, is you know what to talk about, what not to talk about, how to keep things private, keep things in the family. So the vocal chain, as I remember, somebody asked how do you get Chris's vocal so bright but not harsh, and the chain, as I remember, and please correct me, is 251 and a CL1B, and what's the preamp? Is it like a me? 1073.
Yep.
Is there anything in particular you do on the 1073? Are you using
just the preamp? I'm not using any of the EQ stuff because I don't want to commit any of those things and then be in a worse place. When Chris's vocal comes in, it does come in on the microphone and the compressor a little bit harsh.
Yeah.
But it's enough for me to be able to like just use the EQ, the multiband, the soothe to kind of get it back to where it needs to be. But I don't like to commit any of that stuff unless I had to. I mean, like, you may get on a vocal with an artist and you're just like, holy shit, it's way too bright. I need to do something, notch down 2 dBs on this part. That can happen. It's just that it's not enough for me to do it with Chris. Especially, it's not like I'm doing half a dB. Like those notches on those things are, and you can't really, the frequencies are like kind of notched. It's like, I'd rather just do it with an EQ inside the box.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, a few people are asking on the chat here. All these will be, this is all up on YouTube tomorrow. This will be on my IGTV. We have show notes on LiveWithMattRad.com. So all these things we're talking about, there's gonna be notes for all this. We talked before about it, but it's worth talking about again. You prefer the Telefunken 251 instead of the C800 because of the 251's lack of harshness. It's a little smoother, a little less bright.
Yeah, it's less harsh than the C800, and it has to me more open top.
Yeah.
Which I'm already trying to get Chris's vocal to have a more open top, so using a C800 for me would actually not help me. If that makes sense. So with the Telefunken, it's like it gives me that nice open, clean top because I want to have his vocal to be clean and on top. Because at the end of the day, it's like I treat his vocal more like a pop vocal when I'm dealing with it, like very clean and stuff like that. Just because that's kind of always been his sound. Like, you don't really hear Chris all distorted or with like crazy effects. Like, his voice is very his voice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you need to do any of that stuff, you just do it after in the box.
Yeah, but there are times, like there are records that we do sometimes where like the sound of the record is more aggressive. There might be more reverb and more like maybe some distorted delays kind of happening in the background. There's stuff that will help it get to that. It's not like, oh, he can't do certain records because his voice is too clean. We can dirty it up and do what we have to do, but for the most part, it's a polished vocal.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me see. Oh, let me get through a couple other little quick questions. We got a few minutes left. Somebody asked about automation. Are you? I know various guys have their different methods for it. Are you a clip gain? Are you a volume automation at the sort of post fader at the end of the chain? Do you have different ways you like to do that? What's your automation vibe?
Yeah, so automation again is a thing that happens in different steps. So like if I'm cleaning up a vocal, like I haven't started mixing the vocal, but I'm just going through and cleaning up, I'll use clip gain. Because the reason is, if I were to start doing automation before I started to level my vocal and do that stuff, it would be hard to move my fader with automation, right? Yeah. So it's kind of like I do it in a more in a logical way. I don't even know how to explain it, but the clip gain.
Well, it's part of the gain stage, right? It's like
part of the gain stage. But I could do it with the automation in the very beginning. But then if I want to level my output of my vocal, I can't do it because now I have automation. So I have to go and move the whole line. So that, for example, is the reason why I use clip automation before I've done that. Once I've mixed the vocal and now I'm just kind of going through and automating some of the lines to be a little lower, then I'm using actual automation, which is the output of all of these plugins. You know what I mean? And when I do like, if I do a vocal down, for example, like if I have the vocal mixed and I'm like, oh, the vocal's just a little too loud, I won't go to the entire line and bring it down. I'll go to the last plugin, which is usually a compressor, the C2, and I'll just use that tiny little gain knob to kind of gain it down a little bit or up or whatever it needs to be. But I use the last plugin to output essentially.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense. I think one of the things that I hear from you and I do as well, and I think a lot of people can learn is things like when we're talking about harshness, there isn't one go-to tool. It's usually a lot of things, and the way that you get good at this job, whether it's mix engineer, whether it's producer, whatever it is being familiar with all the tools so you can use them in combination for whatever's right for this particular vocal. And even if you're working with the same person a lot, which you're not now, you're mixing lots of different things, but even if you're working with the same person, different vocals, different songs, different, they change
different keys. I mean, people's vocal registers have different frequencies in different registers, you know what I mean?
And so there's situations where like sibilants, the S's and T's and things, it might be you want to use a little saturation and multiband compression. It might be a de-esser. It might be just clip gaining it down a little bit, because as soon as you start using a de-esser, it starts to sound a little bit like there's a lisp on the, like there's all kinds of different ways to do it, and it's worth learning all of them so that you can use them in tandem.
And then also knowing, because you know all these different ways now, like obviously I can use a de-esser. Sometimes the S will be so prominent that I'll actually use the Pro Q to find the frequency and then just put it in dynamic mode.
Yep.
And so get boo. I got it a little bit. Okay, it sounds a little better. It still has a little bit. Let me use the de-esser now with it. But knowing all these things, and that's another thing. Like a multiband and a soothe for me, I know when I need to use one versus the other. They do pretty much the same thing, but sometimes it's not a particular place that the vocal is abrasive. It's kind of just overall. So I'll use the soothe and kind of just dial the whole vocal a little bit. And then, oh, there's one pocket more I'll pull up. I use this Sonics G Dynamics thing. Hold on, let me look for it. I absolutely love this thing. The Sonics Oxford Dynamic EQ. So that I do for very subtle things. It's usually top end stuff. For my low end dynamics, I'll use a different plugin, but for my top end stuff, I'll use Soothe and then this Sonics Dynamic, and it's very slight. And it's usually the vocals just kind of right over the edge. That's what I'm always dealing with, is like something being just a little too much like this. Let me dial that back. A little less like that. It's these, as you get to the end of the mix, you're just dialing these little tiny things in.
I think that's something also that I remember the first time I did one of these with Baines, and he was talking about his vocal plugin setup, and there were like 12 vocals, and it was kind of like, holy shit. I'm sorry, 12 plugins. It's like 12 plugins, holy shit. But it's like, okay, this one is reducing a little, like a dB just on S's, and this one is doing a little bit of rounding, and this one has they're all very, very subtle.
And
you can do very extreme things, and extreme things are great too, but like oftentimes what we're talking about here is do a little bit of this, then a little bit of this, and a little bit of this, and the way they add up just kind of sounds right. And that's just exactly a function of experience. It's
mixing is 1,000 different decisions being made, right? Dun, 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 dun. And those 1,000 decisions, or however many mix moves you made, are what makes up just this 2-track mix, right? That's all mixing is. It's not like, oh, all I did was just do this. It's so many moves. I mean, like on Industry Baby, that could have been easily 1,000 or more moves. I mean, like dealing with all that shit. But all those little moves, and I take it little by little. I work on this, then I work on that. I'll be ADD, I'll be working on the hook, and then I'll not do the backgrounds on the hook. I'll go to the verse lead, and I'll do the verse lead. I'll get all the leads sounding good. Then I'll start to bring in backgrounds. It's like, it's this whole process that happens. It's like watching a movie versus a TV show. Like the TV show is just like, all these things are happening. Little things, and they make up the whole season. It's like, it's weird.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. It's lots of small little moves to make up the whole, and not one of them is necessarily going to make or break it, but it's the accumulation of all of them.
It's the accumulation. It's like compounding interest. It's fucking crazy how it happens.
Well, Teezio, my friend, we've done an hour. It's been great. I think we got to a lot of the questions. I'm going to hit people back in the DMs. And for those of you that haven't watched this before, this will be up on my IGTV right after. It'll be up on YouTube tomorrow. We have an audio podcast version, which will be up tomorrow. If you follow me, I'll throw the links up. Teezio, I'll share them as well. And we got show notes on LiveWithMattRad.com within an hour or two, I think. Bradley always does those. And so you can look through all the stuff we've talked about, list of plugins, all that kind of shit. Teezio, my friend, thank you, as always. It's
Thank you. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everyone watching, and hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, we'll do and we're going to try to get you on the Discord. I don't know if you're a Discord person, but...
me and you are going to have to sit there I have to understand how it works.
Yeah, there's a lot of people on Discord being like, actually, is Teezio going to come on? We got to get Teezio on. So it's just a little... Discord, let me see. Discord is like somewhere between like a message board and a group chat. So it's like real-time messages, but in different categories. And so we have one for Live with Matt Rad. All of you are welcome to come join it. It's just a bunch of people talking about making records, and there's sections about mixing, and there's sections about meditation, and there's sections, whatever, and people just talk about kind of whatever they feel. But maybe we can try to get you on at some point. But yeah, thank you as always for taking the time. I know you got a lot of work, so go get back to work. And
back to mixing.
I'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, man. Be safe.
Peace, guys. Thank you all for watching. Bye.